The truth is, the Jedi are completely wrong about how the dark side works, and even the Sith are laughing at their mistake. Greetings again, lore junkies, and welcome back to the archives. The Jedi teach that anger, fear, and aggression are of the darkness. To feel these emotions and to act on them would lead one down a corruptive path from which they could never return. This was the rhetoric taught for centuries among the Jedi Order. As for outsiders looking in though, it does seem that this could be true. When we observe Jedi giving into these emotions, they tap into paranormal power that often results in destruction. But what if we told you that according to the Sith, the Jedi's anger actually has almost nothing to do with the dark side? While in most cases Sith are egging the Jedi to give in, they actually know something that the Jedi do not. In the Legends novels, we've uncovered rare words of wisdom from Sith Lords who denounce the notion that angry Jedi ever really harness any modicum of the dark side, thus making their fear of emotion completely irrational. In today's holocron, we are going to take a critical look at the Jedi's approach to the dark side, and why the Sith, for once, have the right idea. If you enjoy these more philosophical discussions concerning the Force, then be sure to crush that subscribe button and comment down below what you want to see us discuss next. Now my friends, let us begin, and to peel back the lies of the Jedi Order. Let's begin with the fundamentals of the Jedi doctrine on this subject before we get into the perspective of the Sith. The Jedi teach that acting upon one's selfish emotions concerning fear, anguish, and hatred can cause one to tap into the malevolent reservoirs of energy known as the dark side. In the book The Jedi Path, Chief Librarian Resteli Quist writes this: "The dark side is the selfish, impulsive energy you feel when you have not set yourself at peace. Members of the Order who give themselves over to these destructive emotions often experience an irreversible spiritual corruption, one that marks them as a darksider. Those who follow the ritual of a specific dark side philosophy become Sith. Not all darksiders are Sith, though the Sith have proven to be the most persuasive and malevolent power of the past several millennia. And of course, in the words of Master Yoda, anger, fear, aggression, the dark side are they. This manifests as a potent display of power which quickly becomes addictive. It feels much stronger in the moment, but it will often come at a terrible price. As Mace Windu accurately summarized it, the dark side is a torch which burns brightly but quickly burns out. Let us be very clear. The dark side of the Force should be treated with great concern. It is the enemy of all life. It desires to consume, to dominate, and control. It speaks to the most selfish parts of an individual, making itself seductive and enticing by promising to give them the power to make all their greatest desires come true. But then it transforms them into something unrecognizable. Even those who believe that they can use the dark side without harm, or believe they're using it righteously, are only deceiving themselves. For while one may begin the dark path with noble intent, the dark side will corrupt those intentions and create a monster. There are constant examples of this occurring and actually repeating itself. One of the earliest instances is the tragic story of Ulic Qel-Droma. Ulic was a valiant Jedi Knight who lived around the time of 4000 BBY. Ulic was trained by one of the most legendary Jedi in history, Arca Jeth, and he along with his friends put a stop to a Sith spirit uprising on the planet of Onderon, bringing peace to its civilization. Ulic was a fine warrior and the bravest of the Jedi, but when his master was murdered by a cult known as the Krath, Ulic swore that he would avenge his teacher. He planned to infiltrate the Krath cult to learn their secrets and dismantle them from the inside. Little did he know that they had been practicing the Sith arts, so in order to maintain his cover, Ulic would sacrifice one moral after another until the line between pretending and being was completely blurred. And when his treachery was found out, the cult took him and poisoned him, irrevocably turning him to the dark side. Ulic continued to believe that he was doing the right thing up until the day when he joined Exar Kun and became one of the most terrifying Sith Lords in galactic history. Ulic almost succeeded in destroying the Republic and wiping out the Jedi Order, in fact, the order that his old master had honored. In the end, he was an accomplice to destroying the Jedi's homeworld of Ossus, and even murdering his own brother. It was only after his hands were covered in his brother's blood did he realize exactly what he had done. Dooku himself was a man who only wanted justice done by dissolving the Republic. Dooku was enraged at how passive the Jedi Order and their willingness to keep acting by a corrupt Senate. He only wished to have a society to return to a place of strength and order, to see the Jedi become protectors that they were always meant to be. But this incredible pride in his own powers, and Dooku's fascination with the dark side was his ultimate undoing. Sidious enticed him by presenting to share his ideals. At first, Dooku pledged that he would not take part in killing Jedi, as the murder of his friend Qui-Gon Jinn had been the catalyst to him departing the Order. But by the end of the Clone Wars, Dooku was slaughtering them left and right, and mocking them while he did it. And of course we have to mention Anakin Skywalker, who wanted to save his wife from a fate that befell his poor mother, only to be changed by his own entitlement and his lust for power. Or Luke's own student Kip Duran, who accepted the teachings of Exar Kun's spirit to take down the Imperial remnant who was on a destructive warpath. Kip was street smart and knew he was being manipulated. He pledged to not be another Darth Vader, but ended up exactly like him by not only betraying his friends, but by annihilating multiple star systems with the Sun Crusher, a super weapon that caused the deaths of thousands of Imperials and his own brother as well. And then of course we have Jacen Solo. Jacen, who sought to stop an impending future he foresaw by sacrificing himself and embracing the dark, a sacrificial lamb. Only instead, he went through justification after justification until he became the feared Darth Plagueis, a Sith Lord so twisted and evil that Luke actively believed he was worse than Darth Vader. We can keep going, but the point is, many good people and Jedi have attempted to use the dark side for noble reasons, only to become the worst kind of villain and Sith imaginable. It's a tale as old as time, so there's no arguing why Jedi doctrine is so strict about opening that gateway in any capacity. Unfortunately, they were so afraid of this occurrence that they established fence laws which caused an immense amount of anxiety within the members of the Jedi though. They would bar off all emotions, only allowing peace, compassion, and to be passive among their members. Feelings of anger and fear in their students were harshly rebuked. And because of this, many Jedi grew to be paranoid of their own feelings and emotions. And when they did stumble and let the floodwaters of their emotions out, they panicked and believed that their lives were over. This was purely because the Jedi forbid the study of the dark side in any capacity, because their students could hardly discern the right feelings from the wrong ones, and so when they felt anger within themselves or another being, all their alarm bells went off, believing it was the darkness. And this is likely what led to so many Jedi falling to the dark side during Order 66. They were told their entire lives that to give in to anger was to go down a path that they could never return from. So when they were pushed to embrace their pain, they did so, believing that all hope was lost. There was no return, no redemption. But in the most ironic twist of the entire century, it was the Sith who would point out why this is absolutely ludicrous. Darth Plagueis and Count Dooku would be the ones to outline the differences between experiencing anger as a Jedi and actively choosing to embrace the dark side. Plagueis says it cleanly and clearly. A Jedi experiencing the dark side and a Sith embracing it are two completely different things. Propelled by fear or hatred, even a Jedi can pass beyond the constraints of the Order's teachings and discover power of a more profound sort. But no Jedi who arrives at that place, who has risen above his or her allegiance to peace and justice, who kills in anger or out of desire, can lay any real claim to the dark side of the Force. Their attempts to convince themselves that they fell to the dark side, or that the dark side compelled their actions, are nothing more than pitiful rationalizations. This is what the Sith embrace. They embrace the dark from the start, focusing on the acquisition of power. We make no excuses. The actions of a Sith begin from the self and flow outward. We stalk the Force like hunters rather than surrender like prey to its enigmatic whims. In simple words, Plagueis is saying that a Jedi can and have experienced a surge of power, allowing themselves to feel. But this is a cry from the actual powers of the dark side. Because they aren't used to the power that accompanies their emotions, Jedi often panic and lose hope, believing that they have crossed a line that they will never return from. Darth Sidious would exploit this belief when turning young Jedi to the dark side in the Empire. When Sidious discovered Jedi survivors, normally Jedi Padawans or untrained knights, he was fond of placing them in situations that forced them to give in to their anger, forcing them to commit a crime of some sort, usually murder. But they do it to save a beloved friend or a fellow member of the Jedi, or they do it out of survival or self-defense. It is their consciousness that does all the work in convincing them that they are guilty of a black-hearted sin. Sidious preys on these feelings and entices them to give up and embrace the dark side. In reality, their Jedi anger was nothing more than a welcome mat. Their hopeless guilt or lust for more power is what makes them cross over. Sidious details all of this in his book, The Book of Anger. He says this: even those with brightly burning passions, those who vow to resist with their dying breath, can be broken in 3 simple steps. First, they must be tempted. The strong-willed always have something they desire, or something they possess that they fear to lose. They will see their drive to protect this item as noble. By encouraging this delusion, a puppet is created. Second, the puppets must be tested. By creating an immediate danger or placing subjects in peril, they will be forced to make a decision. Crazed by fear and the mere thought of losing what they hold dear, they will do anything that is asked of them if only to preserve their most cherished desires. Third, they must be forced to submit. A moment will arise when they will take a step too far. In panic or fear, they will hurt others or commit a crime in such a way the outside world will never forgive. After that moment, there is no return from the dark side. Some who have been ensnared will choose to end their lives. Most, however, will accept their role as new warriors of the dark side. One life has ended, and a better one has begun. This is a massive deception that only the Sith know the truth of. They're the ones laughing at the Jedi, exploiting it for their own benefit. To hammer the point home, it is Dooku who is the one who fulfills Plagueis' explanation, speaking about the nature of the Sith's approach to aggressive feelings. In the Labyrinth of Evil, his thoughts go as follows. Partnership with a Sith didn't make one a Sith. As the Jedi arts had to be taught, so too did the power of the dark side, and so began his long apprenticeship. The Jedi warned that anger was the quickest path to the dark side, but anger was nothing more than raw emotion. To know the dark side, one had to be willing to rise above all morality, to throw love and compassion aside, and to do whatever was necessary to bring about the vision of a world brought under control, even if that meant taking lives. Jedi believe that using any anger at all constitutes a path to the darkness, but the Sith refute this. Anger may indeed be a gateway, one of many, but truly embracing the darkness was something that needed to be taught. The Sith had techniques for unlocking greater power from within them, accessing the energies of the dark side. Nothing about learning the Force is intuitive. The Jedi should know this. That includes the dark side. It was to be practiced, honed, refined, repeatedly focused upon. Only that will bring them the kind of evil elevation that the Sith use. This fear does so much more to harm the Jedi than it does good, and the Sith are the ones that ridicule them for it. One may think that it's just because the Sith believe not using anger is weakness, but it's so much more than that. The Sith actively observing the Jedi treat anger like an irrational phobia, believing that so much as touching it will make them a dark side user, which is a lie, a joke. What Jedi need to understand is the concept of righteous fury. Anger is an emotion most associated with fire. Fire burns and destroys, but it can also warm and provide light. So too can anger be an illuminating agent, giving a person clarity on where the problem lie. A selfish anger will cause nothing but ruin. But when someone like a Jedi, a peacekeeper who is taught to experience great compassion, sees injustice, that may cause them to become furious on an innocent person's behalf. That anger instigates action, stopping the injustice and saving a life. In that way, the emotion is the kind of fire that provides warmth and light. Most importantly, protection. One of the reasons Revan became so powerful was because he understood this perfectly. In the Legends Revan novel, Revan reflects on his time being a Jedi, and then transitioning into a Sith, and then a Jedi yet again. Having experienced both sides of the Force, Revan sees where the Jedi fail and where the Sith fail, and in his writings, he states this. The Jedi Order opposed emotional attachments, believing that they were stepping stones to destruction. They taught that love begat jealousy, which led to the dark side. But Revan had seen its redemptive powers firsthand. It was his love that had brought Bastila back to the light, their emotional bond which had wrought salvation for both of them. Denying or attempting to utterly control emotion, Revan felt, was a fool's game. Jealousy was actually the result of ill-prepared Jedi being overwhelmed by feelings that they had never learned to face. Revan believed Jedi could be taught to use positive emotions like love and happiness to strengthen their connection to the Force in the exact same way that hatred and anger gave power to those that followed the dark side. And that is the revelation. But this is just our perspective given from what we've read in the lore. What are your thoughts on this, lore junkies? Do you think that it is truly a slippery slope? Or can anger be navigated with the guiding light of the light side to compassion, hope, and revelation? As always, we look forward to seeing your takes on the philosophies of the Jedi and Sith. This one in particular was fascinating since it was Sith providing guidance on the subject that they know the most about, actually falling to the dark side. But until next time, my friends, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, and may the Force be with you.